All right, guys, welcome back to another Tuesday, Thursday Animal Adventures with Jordan. And today, our featured animal is going to be the reticulated giraffe. You might know this big girl next to me. Her name is April. Very good. So, first things first, we were kind of prompted to do this talk today because I read an article on CNN.com, and they're calling this the sixth mass extinction that we're under right now. 1/3 of land mammals and reptiles and so forth will be extinct pretty soon here if we don't change our ways. And in fact, they said like African elephants within 20 years will be wiped out in the wild. So we have to make some significant changes right now. So before we jump into our Giraffe 101, let's talk about that conservation need and status for these guys. And I might repeat myself for many of you that have been following us over what felt like forever. But as you know, giraffes are in trouble. They are now listed as a vulnerable species. There are less than 100,000 of them left in the wild. Now, not to downplay the plight of African elephants, but there are about 400,000 left of them. Of course, they need our attention as well, but it goes to show you just how much trouble giraffes are actually in. April, come back when you're ready. All right. And what's wiping out our giraffes? Unfortunately, it's a mix of poaching, habitat loss, and destruction. And that's a very troubling thing because many of these animals we feature in our talks, as you know, until we curb our ways, we're not going to help them. That's the main role that these captive management programs play right now. Here we are trying to continue to diversify bloodlines. We're trying to sustain them in our captive populations so that hopefully and ideally someday when we can conserve and preserve natural environments, we can maybe reintroduce them back. We've done it with other animals, scimitar oryx, Arabian oryx, American alligators. It can happen, but not until we change our ways. Yeah. So going back to our Giraffe 101, now reticulated giraffes, there's some debate on kind of their classification right now. Originally, giraffes were a species, and then they listed 9 subspecies under that. Well, now there's debate back and forth that there's actually 4 species of giraffe. Now, if we break that down to 4 specific species, what that means is that there's even less of them categorized under those specific species, which bumps up their vulnerability to threatened and possibly endangered species levels. Now, the reticulated giraffe is, and all giraffes in general, are the largest terrestrial land mammal in the world. Of course, obviously the tallest, our adult male, a bull giraffe, can reach upwards of about 18 feet tall. Our giraffe barn you're looking at there, those windows are about the 13-foot mark. April looks out of those no problem. And the top pitch of that roof right there, you're looking at about 20 to 24 feet. Just to put it in perspective of how tall they get. And of course, our animals, our big males, can easily achieve over a ton. That's 2,000 pounds. Now, the giraffes we have here on site, as you affectionately already know, are April, Oliver, and Tajiri. Our boy Oliver, being 5 years old right now, stands at about that 13-foot mark, 12-foot mark. Our big girl April, who is 15 years old, stands about that 14 to 15-foot mark. Now, April is probably full grown at this point. They really hit their growth spurts from their young age to about 10 years old. After that, they start to cool down. But what that means is that Oliver has got a lot more room to grow, literally. Now, our baby, we have many people asking about our baby giraffe. What's his current height? Right now, we're recording him somewhere close to 8 feet tall. So in a short 3 months, just about, we've grown a significant amount of footage here. Now, hopefully we'll entice April to come back down. If not, at least it's a little bit of break from all these carrot treats she's been getting. All right, now going back, what we're going to do is talk about that body from the head right down to the toe or the hooves. So first things first, those big things up on her head are called Ossicones. See, we've educated you a little bit there. It's a good thing. Now, the ossicones are equivalent to sort of like a horn. Now, when our baby Taj was born, those ossicones are actually very soft cartilage and they're flat against the head, obviously to make things a little bit more comfortable for mom when she gives birth. Then after a few days, what happens is those ossicones, that cartilage actually stands right up. And over time, it gets quite hard and actually fuses right to the skull. And then they take on that hard form that you see here now. Now, in a female, these ossicones are used for itching, scratching, and so forth, but our males, their ossicones are much larger, much more pronounced, and you'll see that on Oliver when he enters the yard here shortly. The males use them for obviously engaging one another when they engage in necking behavior. Now, what is necking behavior? That is when our males want to court a female. Now, as we've tried to teach you all, that our females, they'll walk around in large herds, or what we call a tower, but the males live a nomadic bachelor life, and they simply, their their goal in life is to walk around, find girlfriends, and spread their seed and produce a bunch of little tajiris all over the African savannas and grasslands there. So what happens when males actually engage in this necking behavior? What they do is they violently, this not good enough? All right. They violently swing their neck, all right, into one another. And what they use those ossicones to actually kind of spear or spar with one another and hit each other right down here in the legs, the neck, and in the stomach. Now, when giraffes do this, they're really not trying to hurt one another. It's more of a dominance thing. So quite often, giraffes survive these bouts with zero injury, if any. If anything, somebody's got a bruised ego when it's all over. Now, what happens moving down the body here, we're going to talk about the tongue. Now, that giraffe tongue is anywhere from like 16 to 18 inches long. Now, that tongue has adapted and evolved over time, and the front 6 to 8 inches of that tongue is actually purple or blue in color. Why? Because these guys are browsing in the treetops all day long and the tongue is sticking out of their mouth. Well, guess what? It would get sunburned if it wasn't adapted. So over time, that color pigment had changed to protect the tongue so it does not get sunburned. But if we can engage, come back, sweetheart. Let me get some carrots. If we engage her, and I'll try to do it when she comes back over, if you can get that tongue out of that mouth a good 6 inches, you'll actually see the color change. Oh, what do you know? Welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, snub. All right. Burn. I know how to get her back. All right, so going down from there, let's actually talk about that neck. I just told you about that necking behavior. And they're able to do that because that neck is extremely strong. Now, we as humans have 7 vertebrae in our neck. How many does a giraffe have? 7, all right? Everyone's always shocked to understand or hear that. But the way to kind of, staying in front of that, the way to kind of express that is think about a chain. The more links or the more breaks in something, the weaker it is. So having these big vertebrae, they're about that long, some of them longer, it's less weak points in the neck. And that way they can engage in that necking behavior without causing any injury to that massive neck. Now, another neat thing is that neck has valves throughout it that actually control the blood flow. And the next thing we're going to talk about moving down is that heart. Now, that giraffe heart is like 20-some-odd pounds. It's a big heart. It's a huge muscle because it's got to work constantly to pump all that blood throughout the body and, of course, up that neck, up to that head, into that brain. Now, when a giraffe bends down and goes to drink, it's not a quick little process. They have to spread their legs out, spread the front legs out, and they go into a little bit of a downward dog. I see you coming. All right, downward dog position. And they go down, and they actually, let's see if we can get that tongue out. There we go. Whoa. There's some color change for you. All right, here, mange. All right, so anyway, what I was saying is that when they do bend down, those chambers actually start really doing their job and controlling that blood flow to make sure she doesn't get lightheaded and things like that. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, moving down past that neck, past that heart, is those huge feet. Now, they are a hooved animal. And those feet, when fully grown, are about the size of a dinner plate. They're quite large. And those legs and those feet have significant amount of power in them. Keep in mind, a giraffe's leg averages about 6 feet in height. All right, put in perspective. I'm about 6'1", 6'2", so I come up to right about that chest level on a giraffe. So anyway, now the power in those legs are their defense. Now, yes, that neck is strong, but it's not used for fighting off predators. It's those feet that do it, those legs. Their kick is so strong that they can actually kick a lion or another predator that's trying to go after them and actually fracture their skull or their jaw or possibly kill that animal. There's our buddy Taj. You see him back there? All right. So those legs and those kicks are a very serious thing. Now, if you've watched the webcam, you've probably seen April kick out at Dr. Tim or Taj kicking at Corey. Trust me, I've been brazed before as well. What I can tell you is that those kicks are never serious. Those are suggestive kicks. When April's telling us I've had enough, back on up. Those are not aggressive kicks. Those are simply just kind of protecting her space, creating the boundaries for us. You want more carrots and lettuce? That's a shock today. All right. Very good. So now what we're going to do is really quickly just talk about some of those predators in Africa. We've already said the lion. Can somebody give me another predator?
Tiger.
Hyena.
Hyenas will take down smaller giraffes, absolutely, or a sick giraffe. What else? What do you think?
Tigers.
No tigers in Africa, buddy. They stay in Asia. Anybody else? Wild dogs will take them down, younger or sick animals. There's another one, it's got spots, it's a cat.
Cheetah.
Nah, cheetahs, that's a little bit more than they'd like to bite off. But a leopard will take down a giraffe as well. And there's one more that everyone usually forgets. Crocodiles, good job. Now I told you when these giraffes go down for a drink, it's a long, drawn out process. And when they go down there to drink, they don't drink for 4 seconds, they get their fill. Now mind you, in times of drought, believe it or not, giraffes can go a significant length of time without taking a drop of water, considering the majority of their moisture comes from the leaves of the acacia tree that they eat. Now, in the event they bend down and that watering hole has a big old hungry croc in there, there's one of two things that are going to happen. Either you're going to have a giraffe going in or a crocodile coming out, all right? If it's a smaller croc, the giraffe can certainly pull back and diffuse the situation. Now, from there, we're going to open this up to a little bit of Q&A for you guys. And I'm sure everybody at home, you've heard all these facts that I'm telling you. Let's go to Q&A, and it can be about the giraffes or anything really about their care or plans. We'll answer them the best for you. So throw a hand up. What do you...
Do you know if you're going to actually let her have another baby?
Good question. Will April have another baby? Now, we've always said from the beginning it's based on variables. How did she do during the pregnancy? Awesome. How did she do during the delivery? Awesome. How is she doing as being a mom? Awesome. So do you think we could probably let her have another one? Probably, yes. All right, so what's going to happen here, and people ask us, and this is probably a piggyback question that somebody else might ask, is why is Oliver not in yet with them? Okay, double answer on that one. Number one, we're still concerned about Taj's size. We want him to be a little bit bigger to withstand any bumping around Dad might give him, but also Oliver might try to rebreed April. Giraffes cycle like every 17 days. She's already cycling again. Trust me, he knows, all right? He knows. He's got one goal in life, all right? And we're not letting him do that right now. So what really has to happen is we're going to see how she does out now as we hit the weaning process. At about 3 months of age, our male here is starting to nibble on grass, or excuse me, on hay. He's starting to nibble on carrots. He's nibbling on mom's grain. That's good, but it's not enough to sustain him yet. As soon as we know that that's a good ratio of milk consumption to solid consumption, we'll probably entertain Oliver coming back in. So in the event April is bred again and for some reason starts to hinder away from or push away from feeding as much, it won't be as much of a significant issue for Taj. He'll be pretty independent by that point. I think another month or so, realistically. So, long-winded answer, but you got one. All right. Yes, go ahead.
Do you know where Taj is going?
Good question. Where is our buddy Tajiri going to go? We don't know yet. It's not even a blip on our radar.
Okay.
What I can tell you right now is if we can keep him within the family, we will. As many of you know, we've acquired another 113 acres. That would give us the opportunity to possibly start a second herd or multiple herds. So in the event that project can take place, then we'd love to have Tajiri stay with us. Even if he has to leave short term and go somewhere else on loan, that's a fine thing, and then we'll have him come back. So we're going to see what happens. In the event he does go to another facility, we'll announce it if that facility would like us to. Obviously, these giraffes come with a lot of attention. All right? Yes, they do. You know right when to come in. All right? So we'll see. But by all means, if he doesn't stay with us, he will move on to another facility where he can spread his seed because genetically, these giraffes have some great genes in them. All right?
When will he be ready to do that, spread his seed?
So when do they mature?
Yes.
A male giraffe generally matures about 3 years of age. Oliver did copulate successfully with April at about 3.5 years old. Female giraffes generally mature about 5 years old. So we do have some time on Tajiri. Our bigger issue is Dad. Now, if Dad and Mom and Baby can't seem to get along, that continues to have us split the yard, which is not the ideal. We would like them to actually come back together, and that would make Tajiri leave sooner. He will leave when he is weaned and ready. Realistically, weaning can take as short as 6 to 8 months. I know I caught a bunch of garbage. People thought, oh, they can't wean in 6 months. We know that, but some have, all right? Others take as long as 14 to 15 months to wean. So when he's ready, he'll move on. Realistically, he'll probably wean in the winter months. You don't move a giraffe in the winter, so if he eats all winter, he's probably going to work next spring too, all right? Yes, honey?
Why do the giraffes have the spots on them?
Why do giraffes have the spots on them? Very neat thing. In Africa, where it's very hot, many animals are adapted to help release body heat. The Watusi cattle with the large horns, they release it through the horns. Our giraffes here release it through their spots, believe it or not. There's some really neat photos out there, thermo-imaging, to show you that they're made to release heat. And that's why giraffes generally in colder climates don't adapt as well as some of your other African animals, because they're designed to release that heat. Uniquely enough, All the spots on the giraffes are unique, like a snowflake or a zebra. No two giraffes are the same. You'll never find another giraffe with that beautiful heart right there on her neck. That's right. Okay, let's take another one.
How do you move a giraffe from here to there?
How do you move a giraffe? Have you seen the movie with the convertible?
Yes.
Not that way. All right. Neatly enough, that giraffe, his name was Stanley. We did look into him before Oliver. But on a serious level, there are very special trailers to move giraffes. There's only a handful of firms in the country that actually move them because the trailers are so specific. So usually you organize that months, if not a year in advance. The trailers, some of them are about 13 feet tall because, mind you, on the highways you can't go above 13 feet 6 inches. So they reach about that maximum travel height, and quite often you move smaller giraffes. Now, rarely do you move an 18-foot tall giraffe, but it can be done. Generally what happens is a giraffe doesn't stand fully erect all day. That's not normal posturing. So giraffes will be led into a trailer, baited with the hay. They'll go in, they'll lean forward, they'll eat the hay, they reposition themselves, and they actually do just fine. Now mind you, when you're traveling with a giraffe, a good hauler will stop every hour or two, check on that giraffe. Now there are some trailers out there with adjustable roofs, all right? You don't see them as much anymore, but there are some on cranks where you can crank it up, move them in, crank it down, get them comfortable, and then every so often crank it back up, let the giraffe spin around, do his thing, and go back in. What we always try to communicate to people is, yes, they are a big, wild giraffe, but they take up the square footage of a draft horse. Think about that. Yes, it's a big animal, tall, but their space on the ground is the equivalent of a horse. So when moving them, stalling them, wintering them, the space requirements are not as significant as one thinks. But specialized trailers by specialized people. I cannot move a giraffe, trust me. Eddie Novak, you move my giraffes, buddy. Yes?
How long have you had April?
April came to us just after Labor Day of 2015. Oliver joined us May 1st of 2015. And conception, as we've all learned now, is kind of between that October-December phase. So after April got here, you could say they fell in love instantly. And neatly enough, when April did show up, Oliver was right in that period when he was really coming of age. And he knew he had to do something there. The way giraffes kind of check on one another to see if they're open, as we say it, it's all done through the urine, through the back end, okay? So when you kiss this giraffe later, keep that in mind, all right? So that's how they test it. And Oliver right away was very in tune to April, and he was a little bit shorter back then, keep in mind. So as April would stand there and eat her hay, or she was in cycle, she would actually stand for him. He'd go up behind her. He'd get within a few feet of her, and he'd stand there, and he looked like a young, nervous boy, not knowing what to do. And if she turned her head, he would jump and run away. All right? A few months progressed. It was October. We witnessed the first connection. As we all now know, they did not actually conceive during that connection. But from October on, there were a number of different connections, and the conception occurred during that time. So it took a little bit of practice. Yes, honey? How long do they live? I'm glad you asked that because I didn't touch on that yet. Now, your average lifespan in the wild is only about 10, 12, maybe 15 years. They don't live as long. They're a big, big animal. Good thing about captive management programs, quite often, we can double animals' lifespan. So in a captive management program, having a giraffe lived in 19 to 20 years, that's a good number. That's success. They can live longer. Some will go to 24, 25 years. Some will reach 28, 29 years. But keep in mind, the older an animal gets, especially if they're not truly designed to live that long, we run into geriatric giraffe issues. And at that point in time, you add softer bedding, softer mats, you lower their feeders, you do all kinds of things to help them with end of life care, much like we do with humans when we send them to senior citizen homes and hospice and things like that. All right, just kind of keep it in mind like that. Not to relate them to humans, but think of it that way. Yes.
When they can't have any more kids?
Good question there too. How old before a female is kind of kaputs? It really depends on the animal, because recently, I believe it was Denver, their female, I want to say was 25 years old and gave birth to little Dobie there. And she did it pretty good. You know, the calf had a little struggle early on, but after that was quite well. So really it depends on the animal. Normally in Denver's intention, I think, was to not breed her because she was on a birth control contraceptive. But usually you can go into your, depending on the animal, late teens, early 20s, probably not the end of the world. They probably could still have a successful rearing in pregnancy without issue. Yes, buddy?
Why do giraffes have to be so tall?
Why do they have to be so tall? Because all the other animals in Africa are short and they eat all the good stuff. So giraffes grew taller and taller so they could get the good stuff in the trees. How's that? That's a great answer. One more neat fact I want to also share with you. Does anybody know the only living relative of the giraffe? Who said that? You? The okapi, very neat animal. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's almost like the body of a horse with a longer neck, the face of a giraffe. The rear end is striped like a zebra. The rest of the body is brown and the legs are striped. Really neat animal, has the long tongue like the giraffes. Check them out. Also another very interesting animal in need for conservation. Yes, bud?
When the giraffes go to eat, drink water, how come they spread out their legs?
Well, because they can't reach all the way down. You got to keep in mind that giraffe neck is probably only about 6 feet tall. So they have to go all the way down. They've got to spread out so they can reach all the way down. Imagine if you had a big belly and you had to reach out and tie your shoes. It's a lot easier if you go like that, right? Yeah. There you go. Okay, on that note, we're going to end the Q&A on our live video. Now, I know there's probably a lot of information I didn't get out to you that you might have wanted answered. Don't be afraid to comment in the video comments. We'll try to answer them for you. And tune in again on Thursday. Now, neatly enough here, I've got to be out of town Thursday. I have to go to Philadelphia with my daughter, so we're going to try to get in with the Philadelphia Zoo and do a remote video from Philly Zoo. So tune in on Thursday. We'll give you another video with a whole new atmosphere. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.